The next method we are going to add to our sticky class is going to take care of the checkboxes. Actually, we're going to create two separate methods for checkboxes. One for a single checkbox, and the other one is going to be for an array of items being passed to it as an argument in order to compare whether the item that we are looking for is within this array. Okay, let's start with the public function. Single checkbox correctly returns checked attribute, and it's obviously a test. So let's add the test tag. Scroll up a little bit. And we are going to start with this assert equals, we expect space checked equals checked. And then when we call sticky checkbox with language this time, and we pass for as the second argument, and then if it doesn't work, then single checkbox does not return checked with value 4. And obviously, if we run a test now, we get this error that we continue getting when we first run a test. Obviously, we don't have this checkbox method. So let's go back to sticky class and add it. Public function checkbox. We take name as first argument, value as second, and then checked, which will be Boolean true or false, by default false. And we check if this search does not have, so has name, then we are going to delegate it to the to another method. This checked true, then checked as argument. Let's create this method. It's going to be a private because we only need access to this method from within this class. And this checked by default, we're going to set it to false as well. And we do check if exclamation mark checked. If it's false, then return null. Otherwise, return this checked. Check. There we go. Because obviously radio buttons and checkboxes use the same attributes, this checked equals checked, so we can use it within the checkbox as well. Okay, so basically what we check here, if we look for an item with a specific name, and then the value of the item that we actually associating this checkbox method with is the given value, and then by default we don't want this specific item to be checked, we check if it exists. If it doesn't exist, we delegate it to check through. Obviously, this is going to be false because we don't want it to be checked by default, so we get null. If we wanted this item to be checked by default, even though we don't have it in the index, then we're going to return checked. Okay, so that's the default, this checked true. Let's add the dog block straight away here, and it's going to take Boolean true or false, and what we're going to say sticky default checkbox or default sticky checkbox for a single checkbox, single item, default sticky checkbox. Okay, I think that makes kind of a sense. Okay, so after this if is in search, then we know that obviously item exists within the search if we are after this conditional statement. So we check if this search, and we get this item now because we know it's there, and value associated does not equal the value that we pass through as a second argument, then we also return null. Otherwise, we return this checked. So let's add dog blocks. Name is definitely going to be a string. Value is going to be, well, that might be integer, can be actually integer, it might be string as well. So let's put mixed here. And obviously checked is going to be Boolean, it will return either null or string. And what we're going to put for the summary here is still, we're going to put sticky checkbox and in brackets single. Okay, if we go back, now obviously this highlight is gone from a checkbox method because we have this method. If we run it, and there we go, for test, 10 assertions, they all passing. Okay, let's add the other two assertions. So this time this assert equals again. We also expect checked equals checked. When we call this empty sticky this time, checkbox as well, we pass a language. We obviously know that empty sticky doesn't contain anything, so this language is not going to be present there. But if we give it value 2 and then true as the third argument, meaning if these first two will only work if there is an item with this name and the value equals what the second argument is. But because we pass true as a third argument, that means even if the item is not present within the collection, make sure that it's checked. That's why we pass in this true as a third argument. And then if it doesn't return checked, then obviously something doesn't quite work the way we need it to. So we're going to return the message single checkbox does not return checked with checked set to true, checked being represented by the third argument, name of the argument itself. Okay, if we run this, and there we go, everything works fine. Back to the editor, the last method, the last assertion here from within this test. This assert null this time, this empty sticky checkbox. When we look for language, we pass say whatever integer, it might be the same 2 as well. We know it's not there, and we're not going to be passing true this time, so default is going to be false, that we don't want this to be selected by default if it doesn't exist within the collection. And then single checkbox does not return null. Save it, run a test, and there we go. For test, 12 assertions this time. Back to the editor. The next test we're going to do is for another method, also based on a checkbox, but this time, as I said, we're going to be passing array of item, and we're going to be comparing against the array of items. So public function array of checkboxes correctly returns checked attribute. Yeah, I think that's it. If we scroll up and let's make it a test, and we're going to start with this assert equals, we expect checked attribute. When we run this sticky checkbox array, and we obviously don't have this method now, town we look for, we set it to 3. And if we just scroll up quickly, just check what we had it as. Town is within the array. Integer 3 is obviously within this array, so that should work just fine for the town. If we scroll down, and a message in case it fails, array of checkboxes does not return checked with value 3. And again, let's run it. We know it will fail. Obviously, we don't have this checkbox array method. So back to our sticky class. And from within the sticky class, we're going to create the new method. Public function checkbox array. And it takes name. Then it takes value. And then it takes array of items that we are checking against. So checked this time array type, and by default an empty array. And we check if, again, isn't this search has name. So if name is not within the collection, it hasn't been submitted, or it's empty, then return this checked in array, and we pass the value and then this checked array as an argument. Let's quickly add this method straight away. Add methods, and there we go. This checked is obviously array, so let's type hinted here and also set it to default empty array, and then we check if isn't in array, and then we'll check for the value and then checked. then return null, otherwise return this checked again. There we go. Let's add the dog block here. Value is going to be again mixed in this case. Check this array and it may return null string. It's fine. So default sticky checkbox and in the bracket array this time. So basically what happens here is we're checking if we have item with this name within our collection, within a search class. And if we don't, then we delegate it to this checked in array. We pass the value in checked array. And then we check if this value that we pass through as a second argument, which will be associated with a given checkbox, is not within this checked array, then obviously we don't have anything to return here, so we return null. Otherwise, that means that it should be checked, and we just return the checked attribute. Okay, then obviously we know that at this point we have item by this name within the collection of the search class. So what we can do is simply return this checked in array again. We pass value, but rather than checked argument, we are going to use this search get, and we get this item by name because it will return an array. And when I say it will return an array, our checkboxes will basically have attribute name equals, and then let's say town with the brackets, which will represent each of these items with the same name, and obviously the brackets will represent that this is an array. So we have going to have array of items with the name town. Okay, now if you look at this, we could probably improve a little bit here, because obviously this checked in array is the same as here. We pass the value, the only difference is the second argument. So what we could do is, rather than calling this method twice, is perhaps check if it has name. And at that point, what we could do, I'm going to overwrite all this. I'm going to overwrite checked with this search get name, and have a look at how much cleaner it's going to be. And then obviously this check will contain the array fetched from the request, so we can replace it here. And if it doesn't have it, it's just going to take this argument straight away. So basically, as you can see, we only have one call to this checked in method rather than calling it twice. If it has, take it, otherwise use the default array, and that's it. Okay, let's add the doc blocks here. For the name, we're going to have a string again. For the value, we might have, we might have different things here. So let's put mixed again, because it might be a string, it might be integer. And for the summary, what we're going to have sticky checkbox and array in the brackets. Okay, back to our test. Let's now run it. And there we go, 5 tests, 13 assertions. Let's go back and let's run another. This assert equals. This time also, we also expect checked attribute. When we call this sticky, empty sticky checkbox array, and this time we pass also town as the first argument, then 2, and within the array of containing 2 and 10, for instance. Obviously 2, which is represented a given record, is going to be within this array, so it should also return checked. Okay, and array of checkboxes does not return checked with a checked array. Okay, let's save it, run it, and there we go. 14 assertions all are passing, and the last assertion here is going to be assert null when we call this empty sticky with checkbox array town index, and we pass 5. We're obviously not going to have anything within this collection again, even if we pass any second argument, which is obviously mandatory anyway. So that should return null, and then array of checkboxes does not return null. So if you now save it, run the test, 15 assertions, all passing, and that's all tests for our sticky class. We can close sticky tests. Our sticky class is now also ready. Let's just check if we've got everything here, if we've got all the dog blocks and everything. Yes, let's remove these redundant lines now. Okay, save it, close it, and let's go and apply the sticky methods to our form. So let's close all this, open our index.php, and what I'm going to do is to put all of the search specific calls to the classes and so on in a separate file so we don't mess up this index.php. So I'm going to require the file which is going to be called search, and you can obviously put it wherever you want. I'm going to put it directly in the root of our project. So I'm going to create a new PHP file called search.php, and within this file I'm going to start with a search equals new search, and here I'm going to pass the instance of the request, which is, if we open our bootstrap autoload, as you may remember, we bound it to our container with the name request. So when we call it from the container, when we try to obtain it from a container, it's going to return this request capture. So what I'm going to do is use the container, and from within this container, I'm going to use get methods and looking for the request. That's what we want here. And then the second item is going to be the item, the list of the items that we actually expecting to get with the request. So let's open our index.php, and if we scroll down, we have, first of all, we have this keyword here. So name keyword. So let's pass this keyword through as an argument. So that's one of the items. Then if we scroll down, we have category. Then we have, if we scroll down, we have author. Then we have, what else? We have year. Another filter. Then we have, after year, we have language. Then if we scroll down, we have cover. After cover, we have checkboxes location. As you can see here, this array. So all these locations, all separate checkboxes will be as one array, each item represented by its value, which is going to be the ID of the location. So location, do we have anything else here? If we scroll down, I think that's it. Let's just quickly check in the browser. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Is that what we get? 3, 6, 7. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so these are all of the items that we want to get from the request. And then let's start with the sticky equals new sticky. And sticky takes instance of the search, as you may remember earlier. And let's import all these classes here. This container as well. And then the sticky. That's all fine. So all this is now included using this require here right before we instantiating all these records. If we preview everything in the browser, refresh the page, nothing breaks, which is great. Okay, if we scroll down now, let's go to our search form. Let's start with the keyword. And for the keyword, we're going to start with the value attribute. And we go for echo, sticky, and the method text on it. And we're looking for keyword index, the semicolon, and close PHP tag. Let's now save it and see how it's going to work. So I'm going to type something here, hit return, and there we go. As you can see, it stays. Whatever I typed in stays here. Hit search again and it stays here. So basically that's what sticky form fields do. When we select the item from the drop down menu, this is going to stay selected as well, and so on. So let's scroll down to the category. For the category, what we're going to do, we need to get into this for each loop. So after the value, we are going to, on the new line, we are going to echo sticky, then select and we go for category, the name of the item. We're looking for category, and value of this specific one through which we are currently looping is stored within this category ID. So I'm just going to copy this category ID because we already within the PHP tags. So just pass it as a second argument, and that should now work as well. So if we go back to the browser, select something, let's say comedy, hit on search, as you can see, it stays selected. I select something different, it stays selected. You can refresh the page, it still stays selected because we have these items within the URL, which is basically the GET request. Okay, let's go for the next one. And I'm just going to copy this sticky select here. And I'm going to paste it with after this value within this for each statement for the authors. Now, rather than category, it's going to be author. So replace the name of the first argument, and then rather than category, it's going to be author ID. And again, back to the browser, select one author, hit research, and it stays selected, which is all good. Let's copy this sticky select, go to the next drop down menu, next select element. This time we have years, year, replacing the first argument, and then year rather than ID. This time it's going to be year on this object. Okay, so back to the browser, select 2001, stays selected. 2007 also stays selected. Great. Next is languages. So let's copy this sticky select again. Scroll down to languages, to this for each loop. After the value, we paste it. Name is going to be language now, and the variable is going to be language as well. And we're looking for ID again. Save it, preview in the browser, select one of the languages, stay selected, and so on. Okay, and then we have radio buttons. Now, radio buttons are slightly different, as you may remember. So if we scroll down to these covers here, the first one is the default one. So we are going to add here echo sticky radio, and we go for cover because the name is represented by cover, and then value is going to be 0 and 0 default one. So obviously we want this one to be selected by default. If none are if cover is not present within the request, then select this any by default. That's why we have the same value as the second and the third argument. Okay, now I'm going to copy all this and paste it within this for each statement here as well. Right after the value, we are going to have it pasted the same index name, but this time we are not giving any default value because we're looking for the specific one, which is going to be represented by this cover ID. So if this cover ID is within the request, then make sure that this radio button is selected. And let's test it. Back to the browser, refresh the page. I haven't selected anything in this. Any is now selected. If I now select hard and hit search, you can see that stays selected. For soft, same thing. Okay, back. The last thing we have is these checkboxes. And for these checkboxes, if I just copy, actually, let's not copy anything. Let's go down here to this for each statement. And after the value, we're going to start with the opening PHP tag, echo sticky, and we use this checkbox array because as you may remember, using this array approach here. And we go for the location. So we just take the name without the brackets, location, but it's an array. So we're going to pass the location ID. We're looking for this specific item with this ID within this location array. Okay, if we save it, preview in a browser, refresh, nothing selected. If I select Brighton, hit search, it's selected, stays selected. Chichester, selected. Portsmouth, as you can see, everything stays selected. So our sticky form fields are now working fine. I think we're ready for the next video.